The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. We are going to start here in just a couple minutes. We're going to give a few more minutes for some people to jump on, and we'll get going. So we will begin here pretty soon. All right, everybody. So there still looks like a few people joining us, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and start because we know your guys' time is important. So my name is Josiah. I'm going to be the presenter for this webinar as we explain what a cloud phone system is and why you may or may not want to implement one of these systems. The goal here is really to give you the information you need to help you make a well-informed decision. So we're going to go ahead and look at some of the topics that we're going to be talking about over the course of this presentation. And let me do this. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and read from this list here. What are the different types of phone systems? Would my business benefit from a cloud-based phone system? What questions should I ask when choosing a cloud provider? What should I expect when implementing a cloud-based phone system? And what if I determine a cloud-based phone system is not right for me? So these are the topics we're going to be covering. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll try to address them at the end of the webinar. So first of all, we want to talk a little bit about Hightouch Technologies, in case you're not familiar with our organization. So we've been installing and servicing on-premise and hosted phone systems for over 30 years. We have a lot of expertise and experience when it comes to implementing or servicing phone systems. Hightouch helps businesses grow by expanding their technology and communications capabilities. And we do this through client-tailored software, technology, and communication solutions in a way that helps companies solve unique challenges regardless of their industry. We have key strengths in RTO, which stands for rent to own, healthcare, manufacturing, nonprofit, professional services, and utilities. Our slogan is, we bring the human touch to technology, and we do this by serving business clients with IT solutions, software solutions, security solutions, business communications, and website services. We are based in Wichita, Kansas, and we also have offices in Dallas, Denver, Kansas City, Corpus Christi, and San Antonio. If you would like more information on Hightouch Technologies, you can also visit us at hightouchtechnologies.com. So today, as I said earlier, I'm going to be the presenter here. My name is Josiah Thibodeau. I'm a project coordinator with the Hightouch Business Communications team, and I help customers prepare for their new phone system installation. So I help to prep for the install by working with clients to design custom phone systems to fit their particular needs, and I coordinate the training for companies, employees, and their administrators, and really, I guess, help to ensure that you have a smooth transition from your old phone system to the new one. I also have Samantha Ross here with me today. She is an account executive with Hightouch, and I'm going to go ahead and let her explain her role here within the company.
Hello, everybody. As Josiah said, my name is Samantha Ross, and I am an account executive here at Hightouch. My role is really just to help develop cost-effective solutions for businesses that maybe looking to enhance some of their workflow and boost efficiency in their workplace. I also consult with companies to help them get the best value out of their phone line service. So that is pretty much what I do, and I'll turn it back over to Josiah.
All right, thank you. So now that we've got the introductions out of the way, let's go ahead and move to our first topic. So what are the different types of phone systems? So the first one we're going to talk about is the on-premise digital hybrid system. These systems are really ideal for businesses who aren't 100% ready for a cloud-based commitment. Maybe you've started to transition to IP but aren't quite there yet, or maybe you still have a need for traditional analog or digital devices. One of the things about these types of systems is that they do provide total ownership of your phone system. The on-premise phone systems will reside at your physical location, and they do require some dedicated facilities and equipment, which can include common equipment units, the phone system cabinets, and central processing units. An on-premise digital system doesn't rely on your business's network or internet.
And I'll just interject. Many companies still want a simple approach to their communications. We want to, maybe they want to keep their phone system completely separate from their network. Well, in this case, this is still a very relevant type of phone system in their instance.
Okay. And they can offer better call quality than an IP or cloud solution. They're a good option for businesses that don't rely on applications for their day-to-day needs. They can have limited reoccurring costs outside of the provider bill. However, they do allow for optional network connection or application servers, which can add additional features and benefits depending on your needs. So before we move on to the VoIP phone system, which is really a system using dedicated IP resources, we need to understand what does VoIP really mean. So VoIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. This is the Internet protocol that distinguishes the difference between a voice packet and a data packet that is being sent over the Internet. And there are really two ways of implementing VoIP in a phone system. You can have your on-premise phone system, or it can be in a hosted environment, otherwise referred to as cloud. Also, as an FYI, you may hear the term hosted and cloud used interchangeably throughout the course of this webinar. We just want to make sure you don't get confused if this is something that you're new to, but they do basically mean the same thing. So now let's go ahead and talk about the on-premise VoIP system, okay? These phone systems can have similar benefits to a cloud-based phone system. Typically, you will pay for the phone equipment upfront, and you will also own the hardware. One of the nice things with these systems is that you can oftentimes virtualize your on-premise system to reduce the amount of actual on-site hardware. These systems often require an annual ongoing software assurance for system updates and support. They require dedicated power and internet connections. Their voice quality really depends on the strength of your internet connection and available bandwidth from your internet provider. VoIP systems also utilize your internal network without the need to run over the public internet. Now that we've talked a little bit about on-premise systems, let's talk about the cloud-based or hosted VoIP systems. So the cloud or hosted system has similar benefits to an on-premise VoIP system. Cloud systems rely on an existing broadband internet connection to make phone calls, so you would still need to pay for internet through your internet provider. The cloud phone system provider will be responsible for system maintenance and security. These systems require minimal on-site hardware. They often have a lower upfront cost, but you will be spending more long-term, so that's just something to keep in mind. Your cost is a recurring monthly fee, which is based on the feature set per seat or user and the number of seats or users on the system. Now, you'll hear the term seat referenced throughout this webinar, and it really refers to each phone that's on the system. So let's say if you have 10 phones, you'll have 10 seats, okay? Cloud systems do require a contract agreement, and most programs don't offer ownership over the phone system once your contract is up. Now, just like an on-premise VoIP phone system, the cloud phone-based system also requires dedicated power and internet connections. Again, voice quality will depend on the strength of your internet connection and available bandwidth from your internet provider, which is, this is something that we're actually going to discuss a little bit in depth later on. All right, so would my business benefit from a cloud-based phone system? Let's go ahead and talk about what types of businesses these systems could work really well for. So the first one is the small business and startup benefits. One of the nice things about a cloud system is that you do have a minimal upfront hardware and initial setup cost, especially if your business has limited capital resources. They can work really well with companies that need a minimal amount of equipment for, let's say, smaller office spaces, and it's easy to move your business from one location to another because of the reduced on-site hardware. They are also flexible to grow with you as a company. Cloud phone systems can be easy to maintain. It's one of the reasons why is that applications are kept current with regular updates, which are pushed out through the cloud through your cloud provider. As far as maintenance goes, the majority of the phone system administration is managed by your hosted provider, and it's also rolled into your monthly seat or user cost. These phone systems are also scalable to allow growth without the capacity limitations that you can sometimes find with a traditional phone system. They can be good for multi-location and remote businesses. They can easily route calls to other locations. There's a single provider for the entire company. So let's say you have a remote worker out of state. You won't have to worry about, juggling multiple phone bills or maybe multiple providers, especially if your phone company isn't in the state or region that your remote worker is in. It's also nice because a remote employee only needs an internet connection and then limited hardware to be able to use the system. We're going to go ahead and look at a few more additional benefits here. It saves space in your dedicated equipment room because your provider is the one hosting the majority of the hardware for you at an off-site location. You can also easily incorporate mobile devices that allows you to make and receive phone calls from anywhere. You have very limited internal network changes that need to be made, and depending on the cloud provider, it may reduce or eliminate the cost of long distance charges. Okay, so now you've got some more information. You understand what a cloud phone system is, a little bit more about how it works. Now we need to move on to the next stage, which is going to be talking about a cloud provider. And this really means that there's some questions you need to ask. So what questions to ask when choosing a cloud provider? First of all, we need to ask questions about their expertise. How long have they been providing cloud-based phone services? How are they ranked in the Gartner Magic Quadrant? Now, this is a publication that looks at many different variables in regards to technology providers. It ranks them based off of different criteria related to their specific industries, and it's something that we recommend that you look into before you choose a provider so that you can find out why they may or may not be ranking well by this publication. It's also nice to know if the cloud provider works with a local partner to offer additional services that may complement the phone system. So whether it's IT services, maybe it's something else, maybe they have service technicians who can come on site if they need to troubleshoot an issue with the actual physical hardware of the phone system. So things like that. If they do have a local partner, does that local partner have knowledge about all phone system types or just cloud phone systems?
Yeah, and I'll just mention that Hightouch, they can offer both types of systems and can give you an analysis for your best solution. We'll go over the different pros and cons of both solutions in order to meet your specific business needs.
Okay. Another question that you need to ask is, what is their flexibility? So we need to determine what their flexibility is because you will be under a contract with the provider most likely. And what is the term of that contract, or how long will you be under that contract? Another thing you need to find out is, what will the cost be to add additional phones and phone lines during the contract term? So let's say that you end up adding 5 employees over the course of the contract. What would that end up costing you? What if the reverse happens? So what if an employee leaves and you don't fill their position? Or maybe you need to let some employees go. Will the price change if you remove phone lines during the contract term? These are all important things really that you need to kind of consider and be aware of if you're looking to move to the cloud. Another thing you will also need to ask is about device integration options, okay? So can the cloud-based phone system provide integration with overhead paging systems, cordless phones, conference phones, door phones, fax machines, any other analog devices needed for your business? It's also important to know if the cloud-based phones are proprietary or are they third-party SIP phones.
And I'll just go ahead and kind of explain what he's talking about a little bit. Proprietary really just means that the provider is actually manufacturing those phones to go along with their phone system solution. When we talk about a third-party SIP phone, it really just means that the provider, partners with multiple manufacturers who may, make these SIP phones, and you really are able to choose which one may fit your business needs best. Something to keep in mind, third-party SIP phones may be limited to features that is actually being pushed out by that specific phone system. So it's just things to be aware of and ask the specific provider that you're looking at.
Yeah, thanks, Samantha. That's a good clarification that you really do need to consider when looking at these types of systems. So what is the footprint of the provider? How many users does the provider currently service? Where is the provider headquartered? Where are the data centers that host the cloud-based phone system equipment located? So does the provider have one data center or multiple centers around the country? Is the provider regional, national, or global?
And I'll just say something in regards to that as well.
Okay.
A lot of businesses, based on your specific business needs, if you choose to grow and add locations, this may become a factor, in determining which provider you select, because some of them can't reach every area like you were talking about.
Okay, yes, that's good to know. Now, when it comes to the cost of installation and service, we want to make sure that your quote includes all of the following. What will you pay for upfront, and what will be rolled into your monthly recurring fee? So you have the line service, maintenance, support, equipment, end user training, administrator training, professional remote or on-site installation and setup. You will also have additional network equipment required, such as PoE switches and Ethernet cables. And it's important to know what your provider will and will not do over the contract term. Another important question is, do they provide quality support? So it's important to know where their support team is located and if you'll be able to reach them when you need them. Do they offer on-site support, or is there a local partner that can provide on-site support if necessary? What does their end user and administrator training entail? How is the training provided? Do they provide training on site, remotely through a live webinar, excuse me, or only through training documents and recorded videos? So this might be something that's important to you, especially if you're going to be adding new users down the road. Now, we need to ask, what should I expect when implementing a cloud-based phone system? So do I need to keep phone lines from my local provider? Your incoming phone numbers will port to the new provider at the time of implementation.
And something to keep in mind on that is, if you're under a contract with your phone lines from your local provider, you may have to discuss your current terms to determine whether you will have to pay, to port those services to another provider.
Okay. And you may need to keep some dedicated traditional analog lines with your local provider, such as the fax, security alarm, fire, elevator, modems, and credit card machines. This next question that we have is an especially important one, and it is, how much bandwidth do I need to support a cloud-based phone system? As this will ultimately determine the quality of service, as we'll see here on this slide. So the amount of bandwidth used depends on how many phones will be in use at the same time. Okay, on average, you'll need around 30 to 60K per call, but it can possibly even go up to 100K. And it's really best to know the average number of users who could potentially be on the phone at the same time, because this is going to determine how much bandwidth you're actually going to need. So to get a rough estimate of your bandwidth needs, you can multiply your bandwidth by the average number of concurrent users. You'll also need to factor in additional bandwidth usage, though, which could include internet security, such as surveillance systems, mobile devices, and anything else that might use the internet on a daily basis. And something to keep in mind is, if you use heavy streaming services, that can also affect the bandwidth that you would need. If you are not on dedicated fiber, you will be given what is called best effort internet.
And I'll explain best effort just a little bit. This just means that your users are really given an unspecified variable rate of the internet depending on the current traffic load and the times of peak usage. So this can really affect call quality and reliability at times.
Sorry about that. Okay, thank you, Samantha. All right, so what equipment will I need to get started? First, you'll need the internet. You'll need Ethernet cables. You'll need PoE switches, which they are power over Ethernet switches. This is what's used to power the actual phones. and they are usually supplied by the customer, not the cloud provider. However, remaining equipment should be acquired through your provider, okay? Another common question is, can IP phones connect through my existing cabling? Your IP phone will require an Ethernet connection, and we do recommend that it be dedicated. You do have the option to run the connection through your computer as long as you have a gigabit phone.
Yeah, and really there's two types of phones. There's a 10100 phone and a gigabit phone. It really just means that a gigabit phone will allow you to share the same Ethernet cable that your computer is using without slowing down the speed of your computer or your phone at that time.
Okay. If there's no computer or Ethernet port where you're placing the phones, you will need cabling ran and terminated at the location of each of those phones. All right, so another big one for people is, can I integrate other applications I already use? And it's very important to understand what the cloud provider is able to accommodate. So application integration really depends on the provider you choose. Some providers may support certain applications, but others might not support those same applications. You also need to understand that not all applications will work in the cloud.
Yeah, and especially, integration with some of your current CRMs, your contacts, database, those things that allow screen pops of the customer information, maybe some notes on the account, maybe they've had issues with the account in the past, or even just past call history with the agent. It's becoming increasingly important for improving agent efficiency. So a hosted solution that is built on industry standards can usually take advantage of pre-existing integrations with applications such as your Outlook, Salesforce, Dynamics 365, Sugar CRM. There's so many that's available to you today. But it really depends on an API or application program interface. So an API just is simply a few lines of code that allows one application to talk to another application. VoIP providers can integrate with specific programs and applications, but it's really important that you make sure that if your business relies on a specific program or application, that you know ahead of time if it's out of the box or if it will take a developer to create an API for that integration. Sometimes that can get very costly.
Okay, that is good to know. There are a few additional considerations when choosing a cloud solution. So most cloud phone systems are running over the public internet, where call quality is not easily controlled. Overall, call quality has improved over the years, but there can still be issues with voice quality, latency, jitter, and dropped calls. The bottom line is that cloud phone system quality ultimately depends on your provider as well as your internet connection, as we previously discussed here. Also, dedicated fiber is highly recommended, as best effort is not always consistent and can fluctuate. Okay. Now we're going to look at some common cloud-based phone questions. So, are cloud phone systems secure? This really depends on your provider and the security measures they've taken and implemented themselves. You will need to verify with your provider that voice is encrypted and meets any necessary HIPAA and PCI compliance required for your particular business. Ultimately, you need to do your research, you need to ask questions, and make sure their security is up to your business standards. Another common question is, do I own the phones? Most cloud phone providers lease phones to their customers on a monthly basis. The cost of phones will never disappear. You will pay for them throughout the entirety of your contract, and you will pay for them for any other subsequent contracts you might enter into after your initial contract is up. So it's kind of a long answer for a short question, but ultimately, no, you do not own the phones. Another common question is, what happens when the internet goes down? So if your internet ever goes down, your phones will also go down. However, some cloud providers may have backup options available, such as call forwarding your main number to mobile devices or maybe even to another location.
Yeah, and I've seen many businesses that choose to have a secondary internet tunnel just brought in from a different provider as a means of backup. So if your main provider goes down, then you still have your phones. And it's important to note that this will increase your overall internet cost.
Okay. All right. So looks like we are going to the next section. So we've addressed what a cloud-based phone system is, why it may or may not be right for your business. We've also gone through some of the questions that need to be asked up front that maybe they're not quite so obvious when you're initially looking at a cloud system, right? And we've also covered a few of the common questions that we get quite a bit here at Hightouch. So with this knowledge, hopefully an understanding of what a cloud phone system is and what it entails, you'll have more of an idea of whether this is going to be a good fit for you and your business. But what if this doesn't seem like a good fit for you and your business, and you feel like maybe this isn't what you thought it might be or hoped it would be? What can you do? So what if I determine a cloud-based phone system is not right for me? We have some additional options. We kind of covered them at the beginning of the webinar. And the first one is the on-premise digital or IP hybrid. So again, it's ideal for businesses that aren't quite ready to fully move to an all IP environment, but want the flexibility for the option down the road. Or maybe you're slowly transitioning right now, okay? There's often no recurring cost outside of separate line provider bill. It's a reliable option for businesses, whether they want to keep it basic or maybe add advanced features as needed. It's an option, but you can also enter a service maintenance agreement with your equipment provider, or you can pay for service to the system when needed. You own the equipment and have complete control over the phone system. Also, today's hybrid on-premise phone systems are more software-driven than ever. This means they require less on-site support and allow for more remote-based or web-based service and administration. The other additional option is the on-premise VoIP. So again, voice over internet protocol. It's similar benefits of a cloud system with potentially lower total cost of ownership. They have a simple administration for IT managers who want to maintain their own system. They are also software-driven, requiring less on-site support and allowing for more remote web-based service and administration. You own the equipment and have complete control over the phone system. You are not tied to one provider or contract. And it's also flexible for scaling up or down in users. So the cost of adding a user is a one-time upfront cost and not added to a monthly recurring fee on a per user basis. Okay. So that kind of brings us to the end here. We're going to open up to some questions here in just a second, but first we want to give you some of our contact information here on the screen. This information is also going to be sent out in an email after the webinar, so be looking for that email. We'll have this information there. If a cloud system does seem like it might be a good fit for you and your business, and maybe it's something you're interested in looking into a little bit further, you can contact Samantha at samanthar@hightouchinc.com, which is on this slide right here. And again, we are going to send this out after the webinar is over. Let's say, though, that after going through this, you feel like a cloud system is not for you and you'd like to know more about an on-premise phone system, whether it's the digital IP hybrid or the VoIP phone system, then again, please contact Samantha. She'd be happy to give you more information either way and discuss the available options to you in regards to the on-premise system. So with that being said, we're going to open up to a few questions here. If, just so you know, we're not able to get to your question or have it answered with the time that we have left, we are going to send out an email with we're going to have those answers for you after the webinar is over. So we'll send out an email with all the answers to any questions that we can't get to. We're also going to send out a short survey about the webinar that's going to help give us some feedback about how we did today. So we would really appreciate your feedback on that and just kind of letting us know how we did. So let's see, let's go ahead and look here and see what questions we have. So this one says, how long does it take to implement a cloud phone system?
So I'll go ahead and answer that. Usually they tell you an average of 20 to 30 business days. Of course, it's always going to depend on, you know, how many phones you have, how many users, what types of applications you have. And also, you know, it also depends on if you've got numbers with your current local provider. That is a whole porting process. So it really then is determined between the vendor, your phone provider, and your local provider to, you know, kind of port those numbers at the same time. So, but usually the good rule of thumb is 20 to 30 business days.
Okay. All right. We've got another one here. So this one says, I have 10 phones in the office. About how much would a cloud system cost me?
So I get this question a lot whenever I'm out talking to people, and because we can provide both solutions, you know, they want to break it out into, so if I bought an on-premise phone system and leased it, or if I bought the cloud phone system and just paid, you know, monthly, and it comes down to capital versus operational expense. So let's just say you have 10 phones, like you said, and an average cost of, let's say, $30 per user or seat. Over a 3-year contract, 36 months is usually a good typical contract that you will enter into with a cloud phone system. You're really looking at that phone system costing you about $10,800 for that 3-year period over that course of your contract.
Okay. All right. Let's see. How will my employees get trained? So, this is a question that we get a lot. Training is typically done remotely through webinars. Some providers will train users on site, but usually there's an additional cost that can be added to that. A lot of times, though, they do webinar trainings, kind of like what we're doing right here, but going over the specifics of how to use the actual phones and what you can expect from the phone system. And that will be for your end user, but then they can also give you administrative training for any administrators that you want on the system as well. But again, it's usually done through a webinar. If you do want on-site training, usually that can be provided, but again, there might be an additional cost, so that's something you kind of want to look into as well. Okay, let's see. I have a 24-hour operation and can't afford to have any downtime. So how would a cloud solution address this type of environment, I think?
Yeah, so some providers, they just can't meet the criteria. They will have maintenance windows that, they use to upgrade your phone systems. Other providers may provide a dedicated instance, or you're on your own phone system, for instance, of their phone system for your business that's really redundant. So then they can provide upgrades in a controlled manner that will minimize or eliminate your downtime.
Okay.
There's some businesses that, cloud's just not a good fit for them.
Okay. All right, well, that's good to know. Can I reuse my Polycom phone? So is that an option?
And a lot of people have SIP phones, or they'll have conference phones, and they can range from Polycom, Yealink, Astra. There's tons of providers out there, but many providers will allow you to do this, but it will generally charge a fee to kind of flash those devices so that they will work with their service. Across the industry, the cost per device is relatively low, or sometimes free, so oftentimes this doesn't provide a lot of value.
Okay. All right. So I think we'll just do one more here. Let's see. So what if I go with a cloud solution and it ends up not working for us? What would you do then in that instance?
So I'll answer that. You really need to look at your contract term and talk to your provider about ending the contract if it's still ongoing. I mean, there's been a lot of times where there's been documented issues, things that have been happening for quite some time. And in some cases, you might be able to get out of contract with that provider early. You really just need to talk to your vendor.
Yeah, and that is a big thing to remember, is that when going to a cloud phone system, you will be under a contract term. So that is a big consideration. I think we're going to go ahead and end it here. I have up on the screen right now just some of the other services that we offer here at Hightouch, if you are interested. I'll just leave that on there for a little bit. And we just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us here. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and be a part of this. Hopefully it did help out, and we really do hope that we are able to provide any information that you needed, answer any questions that you needed. Again, if you put a question in the chat and we didn't get to it, we will answer that and we will send it out through email. If you want to get in touch with us or you want more information, again, that information is going to be sent out through the email as well. And you will also have Samantha's email address where you can contact her directly if you need to. Okay? So again, thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate it. Hope that it helped you out, and hope you have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you.